Alright, so I have played this game for a good portion now, and I need to get this off my chest before I play this on release and change my mind and love the game. After playing Diablo 4 these 2 weeks with 3 characters, I can finally say I can't wait to get back to Path of Exile. Okay, Diablo 2 is a beautiful game and it was a blast to play through, all the way to 25. The scenery is stunning, the music and the voice acting is top notch, and as I played this beta it actually gave me the Diablo 2 vibes that I was hoping for. The wolves, the skeletons felt great to fight, and the quill rats was a nice feeling to see again. But I did feel that the map was a bit different, and the big map when you press the tab was awful. Despite the good quest, the quest pointers at times led you in the wrong direction, something that I can guarantee will be fixed until the release. But the quest was fun. And before we go any deeper in this game, I want to raise my hand on the amazing story we got so far. The main quest and story mixed with all the small details in the game that we can find and read really made for an almost horror story in an RPG world. I personally loved this. Some stuff might have been overdone, but most of the stuff was just perfect and better than expected. Among all the monsters this game have to offer, the bosses are also to note here.
I'm low on fury.
The difficulty in the fight was great, and at times it almost felt too hard. Though other characters that I played were stronger and made even those fights easier, but more on that later. But generally, everything was a lot harder than I expected. I'm not sure if this was because the tough boss mechanics or the really bad notification on what is going to happen. Some fights were really hard to read, and avoiding the attacks was even harder than it should have been with clearer directions. I'm not saying we need a deadly boss mod, but when everything is dark and you get an ominous attack against you, it was hard to avoid. The events in the open world was surprisingly good, even though many of them were the same. For example, I did some save me under the caravan a few times. Nothing that breaks the game, but it gave me a feeling that, I didn't enjoy that. The dungeons was also very good, at least in the beginning. It gave a nice change to the environment as well as a nudge to keep playing, but it also felt same. It might be because we did them a lot and we could not advance further that we would normally do, but I also felt that there was a lot of backtracking and finding quests to progress further in the dungeons. This would have not been that bad if the dungeons weren't uneventful. And I'm not talking about big events in every corner, but as they were quite good, they also felt empty. And the boss fights in those were good as well as the accompanying story. But I will say that I told you so. The dungeons are repetitive. They have the same layout after doing like 50 of them in Act 1. I can't say I'm eager to make 50 more in Act 2, which we probably won't. But yeah, they need to fix that. Make them a lot more diverse, please. It's funny how Diablo 2 and even Diablo 1 never made me feel this way, and somehow those maps worked better, even though they seem easier or like simpler. But in Diablo 4, when you attack something, you really feel the impact. It feels powerful, and it's almost like you can feel the character's strength in every hit that you give or take. I didn't know that in the beginning because I started with a scrawny rogue and I threw the knife that wasn't that powerful, but equally effective. It made more sense, and in a way I could endlessly throw the daggers in rapid speed, and that made for a great experience. Now to talk about stuff that I don't like and even dislike so much that it almost breaks the game. First off, the whole reason you play a game like this is to grow stronger and finding amazing loot. Both of this needs a change in the game. Let's start with growing stronger. Diablo 4 uses scaling in the game. This makes everything around you scale to your level, which means that wherever you go, the lower mob scales up to your level, making you always have stuff to do in the world of Diablo 4, even if you go back to the first map. This makes it so that even though you're rushing areas that would provide more content or different content, you can always go back to where you have been and continue clearing those parts later, because the monsters have then grown stronger. So even if this is a good feature and gives some kind of longevity to the game, it's a feature that diminishes your own growth. You don't feel the growth in Diablo 4 because you can't go back to an earlier, harder area to take revenge because you're stronger, because the monsters are stronger too, and every level that you get makes you less powerful compared to the mobs unless you find a good item that boosts you to an equal level. And this does not help when the loot that you get don't boost you enough. Me, for example, I did find a legendary sword early on and I didn't feel any difference when equipping it. Not only did it not have a legendary appearance, it also had a bad legendary power. Now of course every legendary weapon can't be amazing and overpowered, but even with bad stats they should at least make some difference, like for a level or two. But this is not really the case. And on top of that, I did not like the attributes on the games in general. I didn't feel those were exciting enough. But of course there will be more stats added later. But for me it was a big letdown. You know guys, I'm used to Path of Exile. I need to say that we get way too many legendary drops in this game. I could find 2 or 3 drops in one dungeon. And this just loses the feeling of finding something that would feel special. They keep the idiot change the legendary appearance when you switch power. And I really feel that this sucks. I know that I will hate to have a build that will look the same forever and ever. But sure, this is where the paid appearance comes into place. And one thing I didn't really like is not have the base stats to allocate after each level. I felt that was a bad decision. I want to feel that I create my own character, and this would have been a nice addition. You know, I kinda want that in my Diablo games. So even if the game was fun, it lacks some key features that I already miss. But for players who have never played Diablo or RPG games, this game can be great. And I can't stress this enough. The game looks great and they almost went overboard with the gore and the evil settings. This is what we wanted in Diablo 3, so I guess they're compensating for this one. Diablo 4 is a great experience as your first playthrough, but will it be the game we play for years? And I have to say it depends. If Diablo 4 have leagues with new additions to the game like Path of Exile have, then I would say with a few changes to the game, this just might work. But the game will be boring fast if it is far between the updates. The legendary power and the stats are below expected, but the gameplay is honestly a fresh and great feeling. And the story as well. Another major thing is the non-tradable items in this game. We can't trade most of the stuff like legendary items or items with infused power on, so there will be no crafting in sense of crafting the best items and try to sell them or trade them. It will only be you and your own loot. And this I feel is crippling the game on so many levels. Sure, finding items yourself is one of the best aspects in the game, but the way legendaries are dropping all over the game is not an exciting feeling anymore. The excitement only comes when you identify it, just like Diablo 3. And finding the exact thing that you need for your own build could be hard, but I am afraid that they will make sure that the stuff drops frequent enough so that we find what we need within an okay time frame, not to be bored. But that also means more legendaries will drop, so not a good way. I most likely will make some interesting content on this game when it's out, but Path of Exile is still the ruler of ARPG in my opinion, for now at least. But I see you guys again.